Hey friendo, Steve here. Welcome back to the channel. So ever since the inception of AEW, comparisons have been drawn between All Elite Wrestling and WCW, the last company to give WWE any sort of competition at all. Even Tony Khan himself has drawn comparisons to AEW and the best years of WCW. Critics, however, have pointed out that AEW is doing a different thing that WCW used to do, and that's just snatch up all the talent that they could possibly get from WWE. Who knows if that's true? I don't know. Time will tell. They seem to make good use of the talent, but whatever. Tony Khan has said that he is looking to not repeat the mistakes of WCW's past, and so I thought it'd be fun to take a look at one of the biggest mistakes of WCW's past, and that is the 1998 Hulk Hogan contract with WCW.
What is going on now?
Oh, there we go. Look at that. Ooh, look at how fancy this is. So this contract was leaked by a Reddit user back in 2015. And I'm not sure if its authenticity has ever been verified, but good Lord, look at this thing immediately. It looks pretty legit. I don't think anybody's ever actually indicated that it's not legit. So I thought it'd be fun to go ahead and look through a contract as evidence as to what you shouldn't do if you're a wrestling company handing over a ton of money and control to one person on your roster who generally isn't fond of boosting young talent. So this says Plaintiff's Exhibit 68. This is probably part of some lawsuit. Maybe it was the one between like Hulk Hogan and friggin' WCW or the Vince Russo stuff. I don't know. But in any event, I thought it'd be fun to look at this thing. Here we go. Obviously, his name is Terry Bollea. We know Hulk Hogan's name. Let's just get right into this thing. So the term of this contract is kind of interesting. Just off the bat, it goes from May 29th, 1998. And it goes for a period of 4 years through May 28th of 2002. Now, he actually left the company in July of 2000 after the whole bash of the beach thing with Vince Russo, where Russo, well, depending on whose story you believe, kind of screwed Hulk Hogan out of the championship. Gave it to Jeff Jarrett, and the Booker T wanted the main event of that thing. Hulk Hogan walked out and then sued like the company and Vince and all that kind of stuff. But the funny thing about this is that the company didn't actually last past, what was it, like July or so of 2001. And then Hulk Hogan ended up back in the WWE in February of 2002. So it looks like WWE actually had to probably pay the remainder of this contract from February to May of 2002 to bring him in when they did, when the NWO came in to the WWF, and he had that huge match at WrestleMania with The Rock. This is kind of interesting also. Just for signing the contract, just for putting pen to paper, he got $2 million. Now, the interesting thing about that is that that was the original amount for his original 1994 WCW contract. He came in after doing some Thunder in Paradise after he left WWE, and they signed him to 4 pay-per-views each for around $500,000 per pay-per-view. And they considered that like a huge success. And then I had not seen his 1996 contract because that originally one lasted for 2 years. And then here we are 2 years after 1996, 1998, and they're doing a new contract for him. And of course, in that period of time from 1996 to 1998, what happened? The NWO happened. And that's that period of time when WCW started taking over in the ratings. So at this point, within WCW, Hulk Hogan had all the leverage. This dude was the man, in his own words and not. The funny thing is, though, it's not like at this point, May of 1998, he had a ton of leverage outside WCW. Like, at that point, the WWE was already off and running. Like, WrestleMania that year, 1998, was a huge success. And at this point, they started to beat WCW in the ratings. So it's not like he was ever in danger of leaving WCW to go back to WWE, because Vince probably, right, wouldn't have hired him because they had Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, Mankind, Undertaker, Triple H, DX, all that kind of stuff. So I don't know that the excess of this contract is really something that WCW needed to put forth to Hulk Hogan, but it is what it is. So $2 million just to sign this thing. Pay-per-view events. Hogan will promote, appear, and wrestle and perform at 6 pay-per-view events during years 1 through 3 of this agreement. So for the first 3 years of this 4-year agreement, he was to go to 6 pay-per-view events throughout the year. It says here Hogan will be the featured wrestler at each of these events. I mean, let's be honest, most of the time when Hogan's on a pay-per-view, they built the pay-per-view around his main event match. I know, like Halloween Havoc, he wasn't technically the main event. Goldberg versus DDP was, but that whole pay-per-view was really the driving force of that pay-per-view was Hogan versus Warrior, which was an all-time terrible match. It says here Hogan should get the greater of 15% of domestic pay-per-view cable sales received by WCW or $675,000 guaranteed payment. So whichever one was bigger, 15% of their cable pay-per-view sales or $675,000. So if I take out my little calculator here and I put $675,000 times 6 pay-per-views a year, right there you get $4 million per year just in guaranteed pay-per-view revenue. Also, WCW shall pay Hogan $1.35 million on July 1st, November 1st, and February 1st of years 1 through 3 as an advance of the guarantee. Oh, so that's just that's when he gets his advance of that money. Those are his big paydays right there. July, November, and February 1st. Hey, today's the 1st of November. He would have gotten paid on this day. Moving on. Let's see here. This is interesting. In addition to the above pay-per-view guarantee payment, WCW shall pay Hogan for each pay-per-view event in which he so participates pursuant to the following incentive compensation schedule. So this is basically saying if he's able to help sell X number of pay-per-views, he will get more money. Let's take a look at these. A buy rate of 1.5 to 1.79, he'd get an extra $250,000. 1.8 to 2, 375, and you can see the rest, 2.0, 2 blah, blah, blah. The funny thing is, none of this stuff mattered because no WCW pay-per-views, with the exception of one, ever did better than a 1.5. And that was, I think, Bash of the Beach, 1999, maybe, 98. I don't know what it was. It was one of the pay-per-views. Did like a 1.5. So for that one, he got an extra $250,000. But yeah, WCW at that point, after October, so like what, 5 months or so after he signed this contract, after Halloween Havoc, it really started going downhill, WCW, and they entered 1999, and they weren't in great shape. WWE was really taking off at that point. Let's see here. Nitro and Thunder appearances. So it says here, first 3 years of this agreement, Hogan will promote, appear, wrestle, and perform as requested at Nitro and Thunder. When he does that, he'll be compensated 25% of the gross. That means before expenses, he gets a quarter of the revenue, the ticket revenue for people coming in. And it says in no event will his compensation be less than $25,000. So even if the 1/4 of the gross ticket sales is under $25,000, he gets $25,000. So I don't know how many, does it say here how many? Oh, so television tape participation. He will appear and perform at 16 television tapings. So if you recall, some of these TV tapings, they would tape a Nitro and I think 2 Thunders or something like that. So he would get paid for $25,000, seemingly, maybe for those 3 episodes. Maybe he would haggle that to if he's on both those Thunders, he would get additional $25,000. I don't think that's probably the case because this clearly says television tapings. That might be a reason why they bulk tape some of this stuff. I know it's difficult for them to have done Thunder live. They did, I think, the first couple Thunders live and they stopped doing them live. I could be wrong about that. Maybe they're all taped. I don't know. Anyways, moving on to house shows. This is a bit more nebulous here. During the first 3 years, Hogan's going to perform at a reasonable number of non-televised house shows as reasonably requested by WCW. He'll be compensated 25% of the gross ticket revenues, and the payment will be made within 30 days from the date of the house show. It doesn't specify there. It's kind of interesting. It doesn't specify how many is reasonable. Maybe Hogan's yeah, it's a house show. It's not reasonable at all, so I'm not going to do it. And WCW would be like, oh, you got us there. It's not in your contract. Let's see here. Arena dates. He can do what he wants with international arena dates, rather. That is. Hogan can sort of do whatever he wants there. Year 4 compensation. This is kind of interesting. So maybe he was thinking, by year 4, maybe I don't really want to do anything. They were going to compensate him anyways $100,000 as a consultant fee. But if he did provide wrestling services, all the stuff we just talked about would still be in effect. There wouldn't be any changes or increases or decreases in how much he was getting paid. Let's move to merchandising here because, of course, the NWO t-shirt was a really, really big deal. So let's talk about merchandising. It says here, in connection with wrestling-related merchandise sold via company-owned retail stores, catalog, telemarketing, CompuServe/internet. I like CompuServe is like synonymous here with internet. Let's see here. For use in connection with the continuing. So this is just outlining the various ways they'll sell their stuff. Wrestling related products, NASCAR racing and monster trucks, and the 900 number that they used to have back in the day where they would just make up a bunch of bullshit rumors. And yeah, so for all that stuff, I think Hogan was online saying, "Hey brother, thanks for calling WCW. Guess who's going to be the next member of the WCW? That's right, the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels." So it says, yeah, this is all boring likeness rights, exploitation. But here we go. Hogan shall receive a royalty of 50% of the net receipts received by WCW and all merchandise sold directly by WCW. So he gets half of everything they sell net, not gross, because they need to take into effect, how much the shit costs to make. So he gets 50% of all that stuff. He gets 50% of license fees if WCW licenses Hulk Hogan. So that's like on toys and all that kind of stuff. It says here, during the period in which Hogan is a member of the New World Order, Hogan will receive a promotional fee for promoting the New World Order while wearing the name while wrestling on air and photo shoots of $20,000 a month. So while he was a member of the NWO, he would get $20,000 a month just because he'd be wearing the NWO stuff. Now, those shirts sold a ton. They probably made $20,000 at like one single show. But holy crap, that's a lot of money just to wear your own shirt. It's like, hey, brother, this is my shirt. Yeah, okay, $20,000. It says, in no event will his annual promotional fee as herein be provided less than 25% of WCW's net receipts and actual license fees. I don't really know what that means. It says, should WCW create a 900 call-in hotline featuring Hulk Hogan or Hollywood Hogan, and should he be available to provide recordings for said 900 number, brother? Hey, what's up, brother? Thanks for calling. Balea shall receive 100%. Oh, my God. He gets all the money from the hotline? Oh, wow. Hey, brother. What's up? You just want to call? It's $2.99 a minute. Let's see here. That's his payment schedule. Okay, it says here, he shall not be entitled to any share of the revenue derived by WCW from the sale or other exploitation of the intellectual property, wrestling magazines, video cassettes. So that's kind of interesting. He got paid for all the events and stuff, but like the media related to those events, the video cassettes or the magazines, apparently he was sort of frozen out of because they're like, we already gave you all this money. At least let us make some on the magazines. Let's see here. This is kind of interesting. It says conditions precedent. So before all this really goes into effect, he has to make sure that WCW gets a receipt of an agreement from Marvel Comics. Because back in like the 1980s, like the late 80s, I think, Marvel and WWE came to an agreement on the name Hulk Hogan because they had owned the trademark on the Incredible Hulk, and he used to call himself the Incredible Hulk Hogan. And so there was a whole legal thing there. So WCW needed to make sure that they had permission from Marvel to get all that stuff done. I'm assuming maybe this agreement had been a 10-year agreement from 88 to 98. And maybe this is kind of a new thing where it's like, hey, you need to make sure that we're cool with Marvel. They talk about potentially negotiating on his behalf, but there's no guarantees for that. This next part's interesting. Bolea's submission to a drug test pursuant to WCW substance abuse policy, which Bolea agrees he has received and reviewed, and a finding based on such test indicating that Bolea is not currently using any illegal drugs, steroids, or other substances prohibited by WCW. Additional terms and conditions. Let's see here. WCW shall have the right of first negotiation for Bolea's wrestling and wrestling-related services for the 12-month period following the termination of this agreement. So they get 14 days to try to convince them to re-sign with WCW if they were going to last past 2001. It says when required to travel for WCW, Hogan will receive first-class air travel, first-class suite hotel accommodations, limo transport, and $175 per diem. Just kicking around money during the middle of the day. Let's see here. He shall not directly or indirectly be employed by, perform services for, grant similar rights and or licenses to, or engage or be connected in any manner with any other individual entity or business of the wrestling type. This is, just saying, hey, you don't wrestle for WWE at the same time. It also says WCW acknowledges that Hogan has an existing motion picture and television career, and to the extent reasonably possible, he shall have consultation rights with respect to the timing of WCW wrestling activities involving Hogan hereunder. So if he's going to go make a movie, he's got to make sure it's cool at WCW, because they're in the middle of promoting Starrcade. He can't just go film, Thunder in Paradise, the movie. Let's see here. Balea shall have approval over the outcome of all wrestling matches in which he appears, wrestles, and performs, such approval not to be unreasonable. What? He shall have approval over the outcome of all wrestling matches in which he appears. This was the biggest problem. He was always the champion in WCW. And to give him approval over the outcome of all his wrestling matches meant no younger talent could ever get past a certain ceiling. They had Eddie Guerrero, Rey Mysterio, Raven, Chris Benoit, Eddie Guerrero. They had tons of young talent. Now, to his credit, there are two names that he did actually put over during his time in WCW. Well, three, really. Three young talents. The Big Show, Paul the Giant, Goldberg, which was a massive deal at the time, and Lex Luger. So, he actually did a couple times, but that new crop of young talent, besides Goldberg and the Big Show, those other guys, I don't think they ever consider those guys more than like mid-carders. But then they go over to WWE, boom, big stars, because WWE knew how to make big stars. You have Hogan as the bottleneck, and bad things are going to happen to your company, and you're going to go out of business within 3 years. And that's kind of it. The parties shall use their respective best efforts to keep the terms and conditions of this agreement strictly confidential. So anyways, I'm no lawyer, but this definitely looks like a shitty contract, right? What do you guys think in the comments below? Did this contract do a lot of harm to WCW? Could they have probably negotiated like that clause out of the contract? Like, hey, maybe he doesn't get to decide the creative of like basically the entire WCW main event scene. Was Hogan really worth that much to WCW, or is it fiction? Anyways, let me know in the comments below. Hey, do me a huge favor too. Hit that like button. And if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button. It really helps grow WrestleJuice so that we have the outcome decided of all of our matches or something. Anyways, check out one of these other videos here. And I'll see you there. When you click on that, I'll be there. It's kind of cool, right, brother?